Welcome, everybody, to episode 230 of the effing title. I am Big Husky.
And I need to go to the dentist.
Oh, you do too?
A tooth of hurty.
Yeah, I got some hurt going on too.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh fucking yeah, bud.
Time to go to the dentist. I went to the dentist like a month ago. I go every 3 months.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So today's the big episode. Finally happened. Rebel Moon Part 2 came out.
The Scargiver.
The Scargiver.
Scargiver.
Which I was gonna say.
I have a funny thing to say.
Okay.
To me, the whole time I was like, "Is the main character the Scargiver?"
Well, like I'm sitting there and like they call her the Scargiver,
but then they refer to them as a he at times too.
Oh, and then also the other thing is like they just don't really explain why she's the Scargiver. Like, of course, at the end there,
you were off on that.
Yeah.
one
Okay.
too.
So we hit on all that later. As you guys know, like I said, Rebel Moon Part 2 just came out. As you guys know, if you didn't see, I'll leave a link down in the comments in the description for everybody to go watch the first part of our review for the first part of the movie, A Child of War, which we both enjoyed. We both liked the movie.
Yeah.
And to do our usual thing, where it's under 5 minutes into the podcast, and us already giving you guys our opinion. What did you think, just overall, of Part 2, The Scargiver?
Different than the first, but it was good. I mean, it's like a sequel of anything. Like the first one is, like world building, which like the first one was entirely world building.
Yes.
Where it was like, we will talk about it, how it sets them up for like the whole like universe and franchise and this and that. And whereas this one was way more localized to one story.
Yes, it was.
For the most part,
the first one really does a great job of like DeNutte just said. This is a brand new IP, right? So it's not like Star Wars where we have an idea. It's not like Star Trek where we have an idea. It's not like Warhammer where some people kind of have an idea.
Some people have an idea,
right? With this movie, like this, we had no idea about anything. So the first part was very much world building, and this one was okay. We've world built now. Now we're gonna condense it, and now we're going straight to just this is the story. Right, and I do agree with that. I thought that it was Snyder doing Snyder things.
Yeah, because like I guess one complaint you could have about the first one is it was very all over the place.
Yes, it was. You can tell, and this is one of the things we hit on a little bit later because we're gonna do it in sections and everything as always. You can tell that the first one was setting this one up, very much so. Rating wise, what would you give?
3.2.
3.2 out of 5?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna go with a solid.
No, sorry, that's too low. A 3.5.
3.5. Okay, I'm gonna go
3.5. Sorry.
I'm gonna go a little bit higher. I'm gonna just go basic with this. I'm just gonna go 4 out of 5.
Okay.
I'm gonna just go 4.
Because I always think of it out of 10. I guess at the end of the day, so like a 7 out of 10.
Yeah. I'm gonna give
70.
I'll give it an 8. I'll give it an 8. Either an 8 or a 75 in that range.
Yeah.
So
we both really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we both.
So we watched it. We didn't put that. We watched it togetger again.
Yeah, we watched this one together again. Which is funny because it's a 2-hour movie. Probably took us 3 hours because we paused it.
Yeah, yapping.
Yeah, because we
going. Hey, did you see this?
Hey, did you notice that? Hey, But yeah, so we watched it again. We watched it together again. I was gonna watch it again actually, already, because I'm gonna watch it again here soon. But yeah, so we watched it together, went through it, and then this straight off rip, right? But what? So okay, so before we get into kind of the story and all this, and like kind of what happens and our beats and all this, pros and cons, kind of pros and cons. What are you thinking here? for it.
Um,
Because there's a lot of things where, and I'll start this. I'll start this now. You know what? You know what? Fuck it. Let's do this. We hit this. We kind of have a new segment that we started last time, right? Just you can leave. Which is this is a segment that we're gonna kind of start doing a little bit more, where it's just either common tropes or common things we see online that people bitch and complain about for no reason.
So the funny thing about this movie is that, like, we talked about this right before we watched it. I didn't see a single trailer for this. I didn't see anybody talk about it. Not that no one did. It's just I didn't see anything for it. So I went in completely blind to this one.
Dude, went in fully blind.
No idea what this was going to be about.
I went in
more or less
knowing just right in. But like, so a lot of things I saw online were, and like I said, this is the new segment of just, you know, you can leave. If you think this movie is primarily standing in the shadow of Star Wars, you can leave. It's not even close.
It's not Star Wars.
It's not even close. We
kept saying, like, if you were gonna say it's one thing, okay, you could say it's Warhammer.
Yes,
but it's not even that. But if you were gonna say it's one thing, it's Warhammer. It's not.
It's not. There's other than the molten blades.
Yeah,
being similar to lightsabers. That's it. If you think it's close,
the symbolism, the viewing of it.
Yes.
But also the good guys. Are they good guys? We mentioned this. We've talked about this before. The good guys have red, and the bad guys have blue.
Yes. Kind of a little switch up there, because there's one scene where there's one scene where Cora's in the elevator and there's just red light on her the entire time, and it's kind of one of those things where it's like, then that's normally a bad guy thing.
Yeah,
and then like we have the two villains at one point talking, and it's like one of them's like, "Are you sure? We can't do that." And the other one's like, "No, we're gonna do it." Yeah, and it's like,
the bad. One more thing, you can leave before we move on.
Okay.
We talked about how people were complaining about his over sexualization of women.
Yes.
Like the main character. We're like, dude, there's nothing but man abs in this movie. Like, bro, like,
exactly.
He loves his dude abs. He loves oiling up his boys.
Exactly.
So
like, there's one guy throughout the whole film, throughout the whole second half of the movie.
No armor, no anything. He's just in a cape. His just abs are glistening. You know, everyone else is like messed up, cut, and like dirty. His abs are just. Yeah. So, my man loves his men. So
exactly, and then another one that I thought was pacing. You can leave. Pacing was fine.
Pacing was okay. Like how we said, how the first one was all over the place. Pacing of that was kind of weird. I guess you could mention, but this one, not weird at all.
Yeah, we got an hour into the movie and we paused it because there was something had happened and we wanted to talk about it real quick. And we paused it, and when we paused it, we noticed we were then an hour into the movie. We had no clue.
Or like, we're halfway through the movie.
Yeah, we had no clue. Like, it genuinely was just kind of like a holy shit sort of moment.
That and the movie, if you think about it, only took place, spoiler, over like 3 to 5 days. It wasn't a long period of time.
Yeah, no, this was it was like the other one felt like it was like maybe a week, a month, or something like that. This it felt more like a month almost with them traveling to the planets and everything.
Traveling.
Yeah, this one like you said, like they show up and within the first maybe 10 minutes of the movie, it's like, oh, we'll be there in 5 days.
Yeah. So and then
it's like there you go.
They showed up early. They showed up early. So
yeah, there's your timeline. It's like boom.
Yeah.
And then the final thing, and this is just going to be a my thing, and it's just it's a good solid you can get out. It's just, you can leave. If you're complaining about the fucking slow-mo. If you're going into a Zack Snyder movie and you're going to then complain about the slow-mo, that's like going into like a Christopher Nolan movie and complaining because the plot is confusing.
Yeah, I'll see myself out. There was a segment where the slow-mo made me laugh because I was like, we don't need it here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. It's like
there's one. I'll walk myself out.
But there's a difference though between like you doing it for that one moment and people being like, oh, there's so much slow-mo. It's like, it's a fucking Snyder movie.
Some of the slow-mo was really awesome.
Yeah,
like there's one. Okay, they were all farming and it was slow-mo farming, and I was like, we don't.
Well, so we're talking about that one later, because apparently, and this is one of the things I saw on Twitter from the people that like the movie, is that scene actually made them like cry and tear up.
I know,
which I thought was interesting.
I know it's two very different
Mhm.
opinions. I'm like, all right,
Um,
I get it.
yeah, so like I said, that's our new segment of just you can leave. But going into pros and cons, like I said, I thought for this is and let me hit this first. I'll hit this first before I hit the pros and cons. So we found out recently that hopefully for the people that like this, if it isn't for the people that like this, then unfortunately, and haha, sucks for you. If this does well, we could be getting 6 movies. And
Hmm.
it's going to be a trilogy. Now everyone there just collectively just had a brain fart and went, what, 6, 3, trilogy,
Well,
what? So what it's going to be is it's going to be 2 movies, part 1, part 2. Movie, part 1, part 2. Movie, part 1, part 2. Which I'm fine with. I'm 100% fine with that. Because it breaks it up. Because later this year, for people that don't know, later this year, we will be getting just a straight up, not Rebel Moon Part 1, Child of War, Part 2, The Scargiver. No. Later this year, we are getting a Rebel Moon movie that will be R-rated, hard R-rated, hard R-rated. They said
hard
like
art.
it's going to be a graphic, like which we've been talking about.
There was a couple scenes in this where like that guy got murdered in a horrible way. Zero blood.
Yeah, there's just like
I was like, this is PG-13, right?
there's the little like hole in the top of his head sort of thing. That's just like
Yeah.
from where the blaster went through, and it's like that's going to be graphic in the other
Yes.
one, and that's going to be a 6-hour movie. Which is one of those things where I am not divided on it at all. I'm fine with it. I'm going to sit down and watch the whole thing. I'm going to plan a day. I'm going to stop
We could plan a
everything.
day and make it happen, which
Yeah.
can be like an 8-hour day, but it's fine.
Yeah, because this is my thing, and it's like I know people out there are already, if they're watching, they're already complaining. Oh, 6-hour movie! How dare they? How many fucking TV shows have you guys been watched that have been over 6 hours long?
Dude, I played Fallout 76 last night for like 3 hours, and I just watched a show. My second monitor, I had a show going the whole time. Watched 3 hours of a show.
Yeah, I watched the entire Castlevania show on Netflix one time, like start to finish, one sitting. Right, like it's not a thing. It's wild to me that people were like, it's like as soon as you say movie and over 2 hours, oh my god, how dare they do that?
Oh, I
But then
the
this,
one, the one time I had a reaction like that is I went to go see Avatar 2
yeah,
in theaters, and that was another movie. No trailers. I didn't know anything about it.
yeah, you just went in blind.
I just went. My group of my friends was going, and I was like, I'll go. I'll go. It's cool. I sit down, and I was like, oh, how long is this movie? Because I didn't buy the tickets either.
Yeah, so it was
And they're
all
like,
free.
it's like 3.5 hours long, and I was like, what?
Like it's my thing is like it's just a mindset thing, right? Like we
Yeah.
know it's gonna be long, so it's like okay, it's gonna be long, so we got to
Dude.
be just that's it. Like let's get this thing.
I was like, what are we watching? The Godfather? It just threw me off. 3.5 hours long.
Yeah.
God.
So later on this year, we are getting a 6-hour extended cut that is both movies put together with an extra 2 hours of film in there. So later on this year, we're basically getting basically a brand new film. Really.
And if you've seen any of the Snyder cuts, it is you know what I really like is the Justice League?
So Justice League. We've
There's two- there's
we've had two
BVS.
main Snyder cuts. There's BVS, which adds an
Yeah.
extra 30 minutes on, and all the 30 minutes it's one of those things. I say all it is, but then if you look at the context of it, it's they add all the backstory of how Luthor is just pulling the strings and how Lois
Yeah.
is actually being like a journalist. It's actually really cool seeing it because it adds so much to it. Because the whole movie, you're like very like, how do they know this and what's going on? And then you get that extra 30 minutes. And it's like, oh, I don't need to know. I don't need to guess or anything. They just straight up telling me like, cool, this is how it's going.
Yeah.
And then the main big one was, of course, the Snyder cut of Justice League.
Which
So-
like in context to this is like I really like the Justice League. It really changed like the tone of the movie. Everything.
Yes.
Like it's like the noticeable one was Aquaman.
Yes.
He was kind of a goon, which he is in his movies, but he was kind of just a goof.
Yeah.
Like, and then in Aquaman, he was like kind of like like an imposing mythical creature.
Yes, exactly.
Which I
So
liked.
it's one of those things. It's going to be interesting to see how and this is the thing. We will be doing a review of that one too when it comes out, and it's going to be one of those things where it's going to be interesting to see just how much it does change everything. Because I know DeNutte didn't go into this one watching The first one again. I watched the first one again before watching this. Before the 6-hour one, you best believe I'm watching both of these.
Oh, and I was annoying. I was like, "Oh yeah, this is that." And he's like, "Yep, okay, dumb girlfriend."
Yeah, girlfriend.
I was Husky's girlfriend last night.
Yeah, it was. Thank God. Um, but okay. So pros and cons of this movie. Let's just basic without getting too deep into things. Pros and cons.
I have a con where it's like, are they normal humans? It's just a question. This is kind of going into things.
I'm assuming.
Or are they like genetically modified? Like
I think so. I
So-
think because I think they're I think that because of course there was multiple times where they were showing like the at the end there for the war scene, the war stuff. Where I'm pretty sure it was saying the Imperium.
Yeah, it was just so my whole thing. All right, so there are times when these people can really, really take a beating,
Yes.
and there are times when they really can't. Like Cora, is that her name?
Yes, Cora. Yes.
Cora, I stopped this when we were watching it. There's one point in the movie she falls like 3 stories in slow-mo and lands on her head.
Yes. Yes, she does.
Like lands on the back of her head in slow-mo. It's not even like she kind of lands on her head.
Yeah, no, like we paused it and yeah, no, she's just up back.
and then she's like completely fine, and I'm like, all right, like and this I'm very like let the players play, about movies, But that one was like, bro, she landed on her head from he actually threw her. He had super strength. He's got stuff going on.
Yeah, he has stuff going on. I want to say that he did, and then maybe even I'm gonna call them like the guards, like the. I mean, they have a name because they said it at the end of the movie, and I can't remember it now.
I don't remember what it is either.
But
they definitely have stuff.
yes, I want to say they do too.
So I guess it comes down to me. My only big con for me, which is like some people are super tough, some people aren't. There's no rhyme or reason, and then like a couple people die from swords, right?
Yes.
I won't say who. Some people die from swords. They'll just die from like a stab. But like in this world, their swords are like they're like lightsabers. So if you stab someone and you pull it out, you're basically cauterizing. You're sealing any leaking. Like there's like this world where like like I don't know. Like in my head, like I feel like you could cause infection, but there's like I feel like you would survive that.
Yeah,
But I'm not a doctor.
It's
so
like
that's like a weird. Those are weird little cons I have. But like if that's it, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like that I get those because like it is, and it's one of those things. Well, and it goes back to the whole the world building aspect of it, where like we still technically don't know a whole lot, right?
That's what I was wanted to bring that up after. Yeah,
because like we're still technically learning a lot, and it's one of those things. And it's one of like I would say this is a pro. I applaud Snyder for doing this.
Yeah,
because it is a brand new IP that he has gotten Netflix fully behind, and you can see that it's doing well because he got part 1 and part 2. They're already talking about part 3 in an animated prequel or something like that, an animated spin-off. It has a comic book. It has a novelization because I have the novelization right here of the first part.
Oh, I then.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So this is the official movie novelization, and this is the 3-hour R-rated extended version right here.
6 hour.
No, this is because this is the first part.
First half.
Yeah, this is the first part. This is just Child of Fire. Child of Fire.
Cool.
Child of Fire. And then they're releasing. I think it's tomorrow. They're releasing part 2 in novelization. Okay. So I'm going to be getting that eventually soon as well. But
nice.
like they're putting money into this, so you got to give Zack credit for getting this. But the thing is, though, and this is where the pro and con of it comes in. The pro is that he has all of this going on, but the con is that there's so much lore and so much world building. It feels, and this is one of those things where Zack has said he likes anime, and a lot of his stuff kind of feels anime-ish if you think about it. This does too, because we're dropped into the middle of a world, and there's all of this lore behind us.
You know what is one thing about all this? We have not even seen. So we've only seen like our protagonists and then their antagonist, who isn't even like a main guy.
Hmm.
He's just a guy who's trying to make a name for himself amongst the Imperium.
Exactly.
He's just some dude.
Yes.
Ed Screen is just some dude
He's
who
he's
has
just
is
the
like the
regent
admiral
of
of a ship.
yeah. He's the regent of the King's Gaze.
Yeah.
Gaze for everyone. Yeah.
So like he's not even like the top dogs. Like there's still a whole nother like like the king. There's still like this whole like universe we haven't seen yet. We've
Mm.
only just been stuck in this like little microcosm, and we haven't even seen the rest of the universe.
Yeah.
So like a lot of these things would be like you'd be cutting from like this to a story going on at the Senate or whoever's like running it. Like we've only ever seen the dad really in flashbacks. We might have had one scene with him not in a flashback.
Yeah. At
In
the
the
end.
first film.
At the end of the first one. At the end of the first
Yeah,
one, when
so
they
there
go
was,
into
but everything else with him has been flashbacks.
yes. Yeah,
So
Belisarius.
that's a whole part of the universe we haven't seen yet.
Yes, I mean it's
So like
so,
he's really leading it to be other films.
which is
So-
cool. It's
So that's
you know,
spoiler free, I guess.
yeah. So that's all I have for pros and cons really as well. Like, cause like
That's a pro for me.
it's one of those things
That's
like
what we're getting at.
like it's here. So for before we get into the spoilerish part where we start fully diving into stuff, it has the big 300 vibes. Big 300 vibes. Which shocking. Zack Snyder did 300. Like no like but it has 300 vibes though. This movie does. Now we will do this though. So if people don't want to hear anymore and want to go watch the movie, we're going to do spoiler talk now. So we're actually going to talk fully about the story, fully about what's going on, fully about everything. We're not leaving anything out. Okay? So the first thing, right off rip, because I have 2 pages of notes. Your boy did 2 pages of notes that I can't read because my handwriting's so bad. But we're gonna try. So this takes place. Immediately after the first one. Immediately, which I think is perfect because it really does set up the. You can tell that Zack did 2 movies, but it's really one, and this really shows it. Right there.
There was like a weird point. So it starts with them arriving at the village on their goat horses things.
Yes.
And there was a point when Gunner was talking to the community leader that I was like, wait, is this a flashback? Just the way, the tone and what they said to each other. And I was like, oh, they're just doing a weird formality thing. I thought it was like a flashback, but then I was like, no, it has all the new character. They got their Suicide Squad they picked up. So,
then we go up to the ship and we find out that they're going to be there in 5 dadays. Like that's the whole thing. Is like you have 5 days, we'll be there, and that's kind of what starts the whole thing.
I also point out that we did go. So we found this out because the one soldier who defected and helped the village, he was working out in the barn, and I was like, "Who's this little twink boy?" and it was like, "Oh, it was him." So I just like Zack Snyder just putting out like man meat out on the screen right away.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's funny because it's like so many people are so upset. It's like, how dare he do a strong female character? It's like, this dude's abs have been showing the entire movie.
Yeah, so I just had to get that little boy out there. He's not a little boy. He's a man. He's a man.
And then we get the signs of King Jimmy. King Jimmy just hanging out, watching over the village as like a guardian, which we still never really found out why he's got the crown on, the antler crown, and the cape. And
yeah, we don't really know much about the robots except there was a rebellion, and they were tamed.
Yeah,
controlled by people.
So I think that was after something we'll talk about here that does happen in the story in a little bit. After that happens, then the robots kind of like because they're no longer there to protect the king.
Yeah,
because they're the protectors of the slain king, like that sort of thing. So they just kind of stopped fighting, because that's what they were used for mainly, was fighting in the flashback. In the background, when they show in the first one where Cora's on that planet and her boyfriend or lover just dies.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, right. In the background of that, you can see there's some JC units because that's the JC units. Because apparently Snyder said that the Imperium soldiers call them Jimmies as like a racial derogatory like slang, which is then funny because like all of the promotional thing is like its name is Jimmy.
Yeah, I don't like
So
that.
I was like, that's kind of interesting.
Uh,
Um,
it, I mean, it makes sense because I mean, it is. Yeah,
it's
okay.
it's it's
I don't
it's
want to talk
it's
about
it's
it.
it's an awkward bad way to have the bad guys be bad, right?
Yeah, you're like bad guys are bad.
Yeah, because I mean that's the thing. Like that's some of the things that like, and I'll say this because I know certain people had a problem with this in the first one, but like when like they were like basically about to rape that one girl in the barn, right?
Bad guys are bad.
Bad guys are bad, and I know people out
Yeah.
there were like, well, they didn't have to go to that extreme. You don't have to, but it there. It doesn't get much
It's
fucking
like
worse than
hammer
that.
nail.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Jimon is how you say his name.
Dude,
Jimon Honsu.
I
I
don't
looked
know.
it up. I watched about 3 videos on how to say his name. It's Jimon.
Jimon Hunso.
Yeah. Massive carry in this movie.
Yeah. Big
Massive carry. You want to talk like he to an extent he is very much almost the if Korra is the main character, he's like just barely under her as like a main character, like the main character of this movie. In
You
my
think so?
opinion. Yeah, because every scene
As a carry, yeah.
as anytime he's on the scene, he carries. It's
But it's still, yeah, it sucks because it's still Gunner. But I feel like Gunner was way less in this movie, and Gunner had way less of a presence, and he was way less of a leader, and he did way less.
Gunner.
And he
Gunner.
just wanted to love
Yeah,
on Korra.
he just wanted the Korra all by himself.
He just wanted to love on her.
Gunner very much in this movie felt like to me like he was the trigger, if that makes sense. So he was the trigger to every event happening.
Yeah.
Right? He was the trigger.
Well,
He was the trigger at the very beginning of why this whole thing started. He was then the trigger of what happens. We'll talk about in a couple minutes. And then he was the trigger at the very end. And then he was the trigger, like So it's just like every single thing. I felt like he was the thing that caused everything to happen.
how old do you think Jumon is? I had to look him up.
I want to say he's probably in his 50s.
He turns 60 in 3 days.
What?
Yeah.
That's insane.
So I just had to look it
Congrats
up.
to you,
because
sir. Congrats to
I knew
you.
he had to be old just because he's been
Wow.
around forever. So
Yeah, I would never have thought that.
Black don't crack.
Bad after sex etiquette from Gunner. I have written down. So Korra and Gunner finally hook up.
We were watching it where I was like, "Ooh, are they gonna kiss?"
They get a kiss, and then the next thing we know is they kiss, and we're like, "Oh, okay, look at that! They finally did the thing." Then the next scene we see is they're in bed together.
Oh, okay.
But then
I mean,
they're
why be around the bush?
yeah, they're in bed together, and then you can tell they just had sex. But then Gunner's like,
So what are we?
yeah, no, not even what are we? He kind of just straight up. He's basically says like it's like, tell me about your past. What's the problem? Why are you this person? Who are you? What is your? And it's like, dude, that's bad sex etiquette. Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah. You're like, dude, you get that none off. You're supposed to be like cool after. You're not supposed to be like, oh fuck, what did I do?
Yeah. Oh fuck. Tell me about your troubled past.
Should have worn a condom.
So then we go to a flashback of Korra explaining basically why she's being hunted and why she is the Scargiver and all of this. So apparently we find out that there's the battalions in space, the giant
It was
motherships.
implied strongly in the first one that she killed the princess.
Yes, there was the hints in the like they kind of tinted and dropped like little breadcrumbs that it happens. But we never knew exactly what it was. Then we find out that it's like normally the king titles the different ships or something like that, like the different battleships, the broad ships, or I forgot what the terminology that they used for it was. But so Issa, Princess Issa, was now
Dreadnoughts.
Dreadnoughts. There we go. Now Princess Issa was gonna name one because it's now her coming of age or birthright or something like that. It's now her time. So the first ship that she's going to name is Peacemaker. Because that's what she wants. So she wants to bring
It's
peace.
the final dreadnought.
It's the final one that they're making.
They no longer want war.
Yes, so she's gonna name it the Peacemaker, and then that's when we find out exactly what happens. And Belisarius is setting up a coup. I'm surprised I said it right after looking
You
at
said it
it.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's setting up a coup.
Coup d'etat.
And it's kind of crazy because they walk in, like the king and queen walk in, Issa's behind them, Cora's there, and they walk into this room, and there's just a bunch of people in robes. Belisarius is there. There's people playing the cello and like the upright violin and like all that stuff.
I want to know, and they all had bags over their heads.
Yes, I'm assuming it's because it's one of those things where they just work
Not
for
allowed to see anything.
Well, and also remember, like later on when they do Jimon's flashback there for Titus, they will have the masks over their head too.
Mm.
So I'm wondering if it's just kind of like a thing where it's like you don't deserve a face, like you're a non-faceless person here. We can replace you easily. Just you're here, just do your job. So they're playing all that, and Belisarius turns around and like the king's like, "What's wrong? This doesn't feel right. What's happening? Why isn't this lit?" And then we find out that it's the coup, and very Caesar. Very Caesar.
They're all wearing like togas.
It was honestly, it was really cool, in my opinion. Yeah. It was really cool because you see it and immediately you kind of have an idea of like,
They encircled him, they killed him and his wife, and then Cora struggled with it but shot the princess.
Yeah, the princess.
And then she exploded into a white goo.
Something happened. So she shoots the princess, and then the princess the bullet hits her, and there's just a flash of light. She falls down. There's a flash of light, and then when they're going to the other side and they're showing Belisarius with the king, like killing the king again, you see kind of like this, like almost like ethereal, sparkly, gooey light thing come out of her and fade away. Right? We did laugh a little bit at the way Belisarius was saying stuff. Do it.
Yeah, it was like very this was the one Star Wars scene, right?
Yes.
Where Palpatine goes, "Do it." He went, yeah, but he was saying it very sassy. He was like, "Yeah, do it.
Do it.
Do it."
And then he just screams out of nowhere like, "God, kill her!"
Yeah.
So that happens, and then immediately after that, he kills the king, and then he looks up at Cora, who is his adopted daughter at this point, and he's like, "Why did you do this? Why did you kill them all?
You killed the king.
You killed the king!" And so immediately turns on Cora and sets Cora up. So Cora's now been set up, and that is why she's been on the run. That's why she is the Scargiver. That's why she's wanted by the Imperium. So now we get the big, like, okay, now it all makes sense. So then we go back to the farm, or we go back to Velt with the farmers, with everyone, and we're now getting, which I thought was for if you think about it in the context of the film, I thought it was really cool. It was the farming scene, which we kind of talked about earlier. It's literally like General Titus is like, "Look, village, like we have 4 days. We need to. How long does it take to harvest stuff?" And they're like, "Oh, a season and a half." He goes, "Cool, we're doing it in 3 days."
They're like, "Wow."
They're like, "What? No, we can't." And he's like, "No, we're doing it in 3 days."
It's funny because you have this whole dreadnought advanced warship. They all have guns. They have this whole thing, and they're like, the one thing they don't have is food.
Yes, and then it's like, so it goes to the scene, and it's like, this is where the slow-mo came in. That DeNutte was not a fan of with the farming stuff, but it was a lot of people online have said that like they were crying during this scene, or like it was a very an emotional scene, and I kind of saw I wrote down, farming scene is beautiful, the music is on point. Because it's one of those things where it's like you know what's happening, you know where we're going at this point in the movie. Now you know, like, we're going to set up for a 300 style war end of film, where it's going to be a very few versus the many, the people that shouldn't win versus the people that obviously should win. Like, you can see that that's happening, and you get this scene where they're farming. They're getting the crops. They're doing all the stuff. But then you get the cool aspect to me with it was one, like I said, just beautifully shot against the background that they had. The music was on fire. But you get these little scenes every now and then where, like, Nemesis lost her family, lost her child. She's just been kind of aimlessly out for vengeance and all this. And now she's farming with children and people. And, like, it's just it's almost a peaceful moment for her, and you can kind of see it on her face in some of the scenes when, like, they're doing the slow-mo stuff, kind of like almost like like this is what life is. Like, I don't have to be kind of always searching for vengeance and revenge and all this stuff.
And she started connecting with this one child, and I was like, oh boy, they're gonna kill that child.
That the kid's dying. Like it's gonna
Yeah, it's like
happen.
that kid's dying, and she's gonna lose her mind.
And then Titus has been drunk the whole time, and then you see him. And this is the one that I said to DeNutte, and I had him pause it on this. At one point, he drinks out of his like little, I want to say flask because it was bigger than a flask. And his
It was
little,
a copper flask.
yeah,
Yeah,
would you say it was a copper flask? Okay, so he had a little copper
yeah.
flask, and he takes a sip out of it, and then he spits it out, and then he puts it, and he puts his hand down in the barrel with the water, and they
It was a
slow
cool
mode
shot.
it. And they slow mode it, and it was one of those things where that's one of the things that's when I wrote down like the slow mo's on point because that is one of those things where it's like normally it's like yeah okay whatever he's just filling it up with water. It's him showing that he's now like at this point he's going to sober up and it's time to fight, and he has realized it now at this point. The farming, the people, the village, all of that stuff has now made him realize that like he needs to get back to being General Titus and not just I'm the disgraced guy. There's a scene where Jamon is singing, and I
Yeah.
don't know about you, it gave me goosebumps. That's like his first time singing in a movie as well, I guess, or something like that. Like his first big
Okay.
like, but it like Snyder did it in the Snyder Cut of Justice League with that random Icelandic girl singing when Aquaman runs off.
Yes, that was the whole like that when I was talking about it
Yeah,
with like it being like creepy and dark. Like yeah, when he disappeared, that
yeah,
was cool.
yeah. So
Um,
it gave like this just kind of like very like sombering kind of like a moment, and then we get a really cool scene that I just saw online recently, and I was mentioning it to DeNutte, a tweet from someone that says I'm still here mentally, and it is literally it's Jimmy is outside of the longhouse while he is singing, and the singing is echoing. So you get this really kind of cool thing of like him it being here, and you can hear it fully, and it's very deep and everything. And then you go to Jimmy on like this like hillside, looking over the longhouse, kind of being like almost like a guardian of the village, and he's hearing it. And then Jimmy has this. It's kind of a really like it again. I don't want to say beautiful too much, but to me it was beautiful scene of like he kind of like lays back and just kind of looks up, and he looks up at the stars and the universe that they have, and it's just kind of moving while you hear Jimon singing in the background, and it's just I thought it was a really cool scene. Um, the fuck word does that say? Oh, so setting up the defenses was a cool scene. So
so it is going about like how they. It's funny that like they have all this technology, all this stuff, but the one thing is they don't have food, so they protect the village. They sandbagged all the buildings with the food, so they can't shoot the food or blow up the village.
yeah, exactly. So if they blow up the buildings, they're gonna blow up their food, which they don't have. That's the whole thing. Is like they needed food, so they came down there, and so it was really cool because you see General Titus, who is who that's Jamon, who we keep saying. But Titus is like, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna put these here. We're gonna start training the people. We're gonna go over this, and they're like training all the different people with the different guns. One of them has a fucking blunderbuss. Which was kind of funny.
Badass.
But it was wild because it's like you have the Imperium guns, which is like the regular old rifles. Then you have like Den comes out of nowhere with a hunting rifle, like a legit
Yeah.
like hunting rifle. And then the girl who like is supposed to be like the one that looks like Issa, she has the blunderbuss. And then they have swords. They have all the different farming equipment that they've now sharpened, and like it was like
You know what I'm thinking about? They were very close in the first movie. I don't think they talked once in this movie.
who?
Issa and Korra. I don't think they had a single interaction in this whole movie. They had like a sisterly thing in the first one.
Yeah, they did. Now that you say that,
Just a
yeah.
side
Now you
thought.
say yeah. No, I have to. I have to re-look at that one.
Yeah.
But then, like I said, then yet again we get Jimmy as like kind of like the guardian. Jimmy in this is like up until this point he's just kind of there.
Yeah.
He's
Because even
just
in the first movie, he disappeared, and they were like, "Oh, what happened to him?" And he showed up in the last scene.
yeah. He shows up in the
And
last
then,
scene with his crown on and his cape. And the same thing in this one. It's just like he's always there watching, which is kind of is like I said. That's why I keep saying like the guardian because he's just kind of watching over the village. It feels like I'm watching to see what's happening. Then we get a scene where they're actually talking about like, okay, this person's good at this person's good at that, and then they get into Titus being like, look, like we need to fully trust each other, or else we will lose. So, and then they start opening up. And I thought this was a really cool scene because it's one of the things that people had a big problem with in the first one, was why the hell do we care about these people? There's no backstory to them. We finally got the backstory, and I would say it paid off big time.
Yeah.
With the way they did the flashbacks. So they do all the flashbacks, and each character kind of speaks and talks about their flashbacks. And some of them, I didn't think they were actually going to do like a full-on flashback for. And they did. And this is a lot of the stuff that you see in the trailers for the very first one, and when they first did the very first trailers for Rebel Moon. So General Titus disobeyed his rules, and did something else. And he said, look, leave my men alone. Just kill me. And then they put him down on his knees, and in front of him is his entire unit with their shirts off and bags over their head. And the Dreadnought from space turns the giant cannons and kills his entire unit and forces him to watch. So it's one of those things where it's like he killed his like the thing was that he killed his entire unit. Technically, yes, but technically not the way you would think when you hear that.
Yeah, and that's why he left, because he's like, fuck these guys.
Then you get the one, I can't ever remember their name.
Oh yeah.
I have to look here real quick. So I'll go to the next one while I think of it. Then we go to Nemesis. Nemesis from like a farming village and peaceful fishing village. Fishing village. There we go. And the mother world came in and they killed everyone there, killed their daughter, killed her family, and then she reveals that they never used to be a peaceful civilization. They used to be a warrior civilization. She opens up this box, and there's just forearms and hands in the box, and then these blades. And it's one of the things that we talked about, where it's like they're not lightsabers. They're just heated up blades. They're molten blades. They're blades to the point of just So she cuts her forearms off, and then puts on these mechanical forearms.
Just threw into her arms, so like, hey.
Yeah, and those heat up the blades, sort of thing. And it was a wild scene seeing it, because like she literally cut her arm off, and then she put on both of them, and then she puts on the machine, and the machine's like here, and the rest of it is here, and then suddenly there's these drills, and it's down in, and I winced like a little bit when it happened. But like, so like that was her background. I'm gonna see if I can find it right now.
I'm trying to find the name. Because the casting thing is so messed up, and then the pictures aren't showing up with
Oh, there. Yeah. So Elise Duffy is her name, I think. Is that it? Yes, Elise Duffy is the actress's name. Milius is the character's name. One of the ones that you don't really, the character's name isn't said a whole lot, honestly. But they are the one that came with Darren Bloodaxe. They do her background. Her village her town just said, hey, Mother World, don't kill us. We'll do whatever you want. They killed him anyway. And then she got kidnapped and sent to another village, another place as a slave. And then Darian Bloodaxe, Ray Fisher's character who died in the first movie, he then takes over. Like,
that's right. I was thinking Ray Fisher was in it. Yeah.
He basically saves her from the enslavement that she's in, and so that's her thing. And then
I thought that was Ray Fisher. Yeah.
The coolest one was Tarek. Tarek's the one we're always saying about has
his abs are just
just there.
Yeah. I would say I thought he came from like a roaming nomadic society where they lived in like villages and huts and stuff, and they go to a city and it's like this steampunk, like futuristic giant city. He's wearing like a suit, like a steampunk suit with a cape, and then his mom is wearing like this monarch gown.
Yeah, so we
finds out he's a prince.
Yeah, he's a prince. So his dad, the king, went to go meet either Belisarius or someone from the Mother World, and as a good good faith return, the Mother World sent back his body because they killed him. And then we get a really kind of a cool scene, but also kind of then it kind of goes from really cool to like, oh, shit. the Motherworld attacks, and the Bennu, the giant hippogriff thing, they're called Bennus in this. There's a scene where it shows the Motherworld coming to attack that world, and there's just Bennu fighting them. There's just Bennu just flying all over the place, just attacking the motherships that are there, which is really kind of cool, destroying them. But then it goes from that to immediately after that, the Queen being like, well, I'm not going to let them taint our bloodline or ruin our bloodline, so I'm just going to kill myself. And she jumps off out of the balcony. And he, still all dapperly dressed up, is like, I'm just going to bounce then. Like, I got to leave. I got to run. But then, like I said, then we get to this point, and he's like, he's got scarves on the entire 2 movies. His abs are showing. It's just a very different vibe from the flashback to where he is now, sort of thing. And then it gets to Korra, and Korra kind of she doesn't really say everything. She just kind of... it did have a very much Last Supper vibes, with them kind of sitting there before the battle around
holding
the table,
their flags,
eating. Yes, So one of the girls gives them flags, and during the scene, we were talking about it. So it's like they gave him a flag, and it's like, this is for you, because like they gave General Titus one that has a mountain on it. Because, he's the rock, he's the mountain, he's the one that's going to bring everyone together, he's the stability of it. Korra gets the wolf because she's the one who's going to protect them, and Gunnar gets the heart because, like he's the heart of the thing. And we were wondering if Zack actually told them that they were getting these things, because some of the reactions from the actors were, I would say, better than what the rest of their acting was. And I don't mean to say it in a negative way. It's just you could tell by like the reactions from someone, like Nemesis's reaction.
Nemesis, that really focused on Nemesis. Nemesis was crying.
Like, she was crying. She was like, because it's one of those things where she's been on the run and just about vengeance, and I'm going to avenge my family, and that sort of thing. But then like now she's kind of getting this peaceful life, like what a taste of a peaceful life would be. And like a family, and it's kind of hitting her, and the actress did a fantastic job. If they did know about it, fantastic job. If they didn't know about it, still fantastic job. And then so then they're getting ready. They're getting stuff set up. Still, they're getting the village ready, getting some little trap holes, some booby holes. They go find Korra's old ship, and then we get a really interesting heart-to-heart moment between Jimmy and Korra, which I was not expecting.
No.
Korra calls him James, and he's like, "That's the first time I've heard that since my last master died in my arms," or something like that. And Jimmy's just like, you can't win, right? And then just bounces, just.
But then she's like, "Yeah, but you can help," and he's like, "Oh,
yeah, maybe." Maybe. So then we get to, now it's time. Now the whole thing's starting. The dreadnought has now come into the atmosphere. It is time. It's game time. And at this point, this is when we said earlier about the pacing. This is when we realized that now it's been an hour into the movie.
Yeah.
Like we had no clue. So then it shows the dreadnought comes in. They start getting all of the units ready. All the units flying down in. A really cool scene of the villagers and everyone kind of panicking to get stuff set up. Finally, the final thing set up. Meanwhile, you just get this armada basically coming down on this one village.
Yeah, it was like whole units, ships, tanks,
like overkill to overkill levels.
Yeah,
like,
and they're like, "Oh, we didn't prepare like this. We can't beat this."
Exactly.
And then this is when they land. This is when we find out that Ed Skrein is still alive.
Yep.
And once he lands, Korra goes, "Oh, this is why they haven't left. He's alive. Plans have changed. This plan isn't going to work anymore.
Plans have changed. We need to change this." So Korra herself is like, I'm just gonna go with him. And then Gunnar steals her gun and shoots the frickin' bell.
And so in a way, Gunnar may have fucked things up again. That's what Gunnar does.
That's what Gunnar's gonna do. What Gunnar gonna do?
Yeah.
So he shoots the bell. The bell sets off the entire village. So now it's game time. Now it is officially wartime. Dude pops out from a little bunny hole and just rocket launcher right to one of the ships.
I was calling him the VC.
Yeah, he was calling him the VCs.
Viet Cong.
And then we get this. Up until this point, Noble is like, you can tell that he's a bad guy. You can tell that he holds himself to that, like, I'm better than you. Now we get to kind of see it. He jumps down into one of the holes.
The way he did is very cool. We're like, oh,
he's just there, and he just takes a step forward and just falls. Superman lands into it, looks up, and then murders everyone in front of him.
No fear, no emotion.
No fear, no emotion. Just dead. We're just gonna keep moving. This is where the fight starts. Everything's going off. We start getting everything going on, and all the fighting's happening, and then, fortunately, in this West spoiler talk, Den, with his fucking hunting rifle, sees him, and he's like, I'm gonna go fight him.
And automatically, I was like, oh, he's dead.
Yeah, he was like, oh, he's dead. I was like, yeah, he's dead. They get into a fight on the ship as their ship's leaving, and Den gets stabbed in the chest. And then the way that it looks like he rips it across, which I'm assuming then in the arc cut is going to be gnarly.
Yeah, I assumed he cut his throat, and then
it just kind of lets the body just kind of roll off the ship as the ship's leaving.
That was the one scene I'm like, okay, also, like, this is going to look different. Because that guy, he had no blood on him, he had nothing, he looked fine.
Yeah. They then, Cora and Gunner at this point have now escaped and ran away to go get into her ship so they can Trojan horse their way onto the Dreadnought. We go back to the village. This is the thing, is like, now at this point, now we're getting the back and forth between the Dreadnought and the village. Dreadnought village, and we're just kind of bouncing between the two, which I was fine with. I think the transitions between them were fine. It was literally like, this is happening here. Cool. This just ended. Now we're going.
It's the only time we had two stories going on.
Yeah, and the cool thing with it as well is that the vibe didn't change between the two.
Yeah,
it was still war, fight, action. And we get this scene now. Now they're going to the longhouse where all the children and women are, and Nemesis is there with her blades. And the higher ranking units have now showed up to go kill them all. And Nemesis is now fighting like 4 or 5 guys at times. It's a cool sequence. And then she gets one of her arms cut off. And then she starts losing. And then she gets stabbed through the chest.
This whole thing is that the child that she became friends with was like, I have a knife. I'm going to go attack him. And I'm like, oh, he's going to die, and then she's going to go off. And then it's not what happened. The kid did attack a guy.
Yes.
And so they killed the guy, but
what we thought was going to happen. They flipped the script on us. Instead, the main commander guy there of that unit stabs her through the chest or through the abdomen or whatever, stabs her. And the kid sees it, and the kid has a knife, and he just bunny runs over to him, stabs him in the leg or something. The guy turns, picks the kid up by the neck, and then gets stabbed through. Then he gets stabbed through the back. Now he's dead. And then Nemesis has this kind of, interesting emotional moment.
Yeah, and this is the scene I was talking about, where it's like, I don't know. I feel like if that would have cauterized the stabbing.
Yes.
I feel like she might have had a chance.
Mm.
I feel like she wouldn't have died that quickly, but I'm like, but I'm not a doctor. I don't know. Who knows?
And we did giggle a little bit because the kid has hair in front of his face, and she kept swiping it away. She swiped it away 2 or 3 times, and it would go away and come straight back, go away and straight back. So it was kind of just funny, in that sense. And then we get Titus and the little group of people that he has. They run out.
Tarok 300 scene.
Yep, Tarok and his little people, they come out and they have a little 300 scene on the bridge. Slow mode, really kind of cool because you get all of the bullets slow-mo across the screen, them fighting.
Hand-to-hand combat scene. Titus with his big kicks.
They won! And then suddenly in the background we hear and it's like this giant spider mech unit thing that comes out of nowhere. Little 4 quad gun on the front of it, and that just starts popping off. And we talked about it I think last time with Fallout, where we try not to over symbolize stuff. big symbolizing thing here, though, because that thing goes off, and the very first thing it destroys is the totem.
Mm-hmm.
And the totem is the bell that they ring to let everyone know that the war's beginning and that everything's going to
It's like the
start.
heart of the village.
So it's kind of, it was at that moment where, like, everything now at this point, because I don't know about for you, but at this point when that happened, I was sitting there when I saw that happen and they shot down the totem bell. I'm like, oh, everyone's dying here. Like,
Yeah.
we're not just losing Nemesis, we're gonna lose a couple more of these guys. Like,
Well, I kept speculating even before the fight started. I'm like, dude, if they fight, they're just gonna die.
yeah. So like, and now at this point, now it is just kind of over. Cora and Gunner are on the ship. They're trying to find their way to the engine room to go do a thing or two and to destroy a thing or two. And then Cora gets into the engine room, and the engine room is
It's straight out of Warhammer. It's
it is
like,
the most ridiculous looking thing. Coolest thing. But holy, like, it's basically, I would say a womanly figure
yeah,
on the knees, arms back like this,
in
with
handcuffs.
in handcuffs with tubes coming out of the back and tubes coming out of the front, and
So
that's
it's like a bunch of tubes coming in from everywhere into the back, her head, and everywhere, and then they all the out is just out of her mouth going down into the ship. So it seems like it's coming. Everything's feeding into her mouth from the because below it's the furnaces. So it's the thermal heat, the buildup from her. It's getting transferred through her body, and then it's going out to the rest of the ship to control, like, the power, everything.
which makes sense as well because like the tubes going in were all orange and the
Red,
tubes coming out
yeah.
were all blue.
So there's
so-
some sort of transfer of energy. It's some sort of transformer, as you would say.
Yeah. So I mean, like, but like, you want to talk about just a holy fuck moment right there.
Yeah, because she was before they showed it. It was like she was putting bombs on this thing, and I was like, "Oh, that's a face." And then it went out to the whole thing, and it was like, "Oh, that's a body."
Yeah, that's like that,
And,
that's a person.
Oh, and then at one point, its eyes opened, and I don't know.
Yeah, I
what
don't.
the deal with that is. That was it a living thing? What was the whole point of that?
I don't know. Honestly, no clue on that one. So we get to that, and then we go back to Velt, and they're still fighting, but now it's kind of one of those things where it's like they destroyed the first mech. The first mech was there. They destroyed the first mech. I think it was Milius. Milius is kind of runs down, gets the one of the rocket launchers and blows it up. And they think, okay, thank God.
Oh,
Shit's
that's
over
another
with.
one. She should have died.
Yes. So she shoots
from like maybe 5 feet away. Like she was like, might as well have been touching it.
yeah. And
she gets blown back, and she's just fine.
so she blows that up, kind of a thank God, that's it. No, we don't got to worry about that shit anymore. And then there's the engine, the smoke coming off, and there's another one with more soldiers coming, and then in comes Jimmy. Fucking Superman land, cape flapping. Which apparently someone online said that that Jimmy's just a rip-off C-3PO. Which I'm like, you didn't watch the movie. You did not watch the fucking movie. So Jimmy shows up. Jimmy now has entered the fight. Jimmy picks up a gun and murders everyone. He then super speed runs over basically to the mech, jumps on top, pushes the cannon on the top of it out of the way, rips open the hatch, jumps down, kills 2 guys, grabs a grenade, throws the grenade in there, and then Superman jumps out. Like, Jimmy showed up for one sequence and just murdered an entire unit by himself. Yeah. I was like, I helped! So then we get to the ship. Now everything's on the ship with the face. When there was the face, Cora was planting bombs on it. Now we get the final sequence between Admiral or Regent Noble, the main bad guy. We get the fight between Noble and Cora. Also, Cora had real quick before this, Cora had a cool little fight scene in an alleyway. No, not alleyway. What's the word? Hallway. In the ship. Hallway in the ship.
She kills a whole unit, and like she kills all like the soldiers who had guns, and then the commander had a sword, And I was like, man, imagine having a commander who did absolutely nothing and just got beat up and killed. Like imagine having that as a boss.
The commander literally is just walking, like just pushing his soldiers in front of him, like nope, 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 no, 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 like, and then she kills him. But it was a cool scene because she takes the sword and kills him, and then she drops it real quick, and she's screaming, and that's when we realize like they have like these like specialized, they have to have these specialized gloves, and that's why Nemesis had to cut her arms off, is because the blades are, as we said earlier, just fucking really hot molten blades. Like, they're not lightsabers, they're not anything. It's just heated up blades to an extended point. So she wraps a cloth around it, which then we were like, well, it's just gonna burn to her skin.
Yeah.
But so then we get this cool fight sequence between her and Noble on the ship.
Yeah.
As the ship's exploding, by the way, and falling out of the sky.
Very cool.
So the ship is now. So they're fighting on a slope the entire time.
Because she blew it up.
Because she blew that bitch up. And this is where we get to the point where DeNutte was saying, Noble throws her.
And it's like straight down. And he's got super strength.
So she just smacks her head up against this thing, and she's just still alive.
I'm sorry if I'm annoying about that, but like
no, it's that's the one where it's like the main character's overpowered, or like plot armor. That's plot armor right there.
Yeah,
I guess
plot armor is like a super helmet, a metal skull.
And so then out of nowhere, Gunner shows up. Gunner gets hurt. She then stabs Noble through the chest. He starts to fall into the ship because the ship's falling. He starts to fall in between the doors. She slams the button on the door. Door slams on him, and then she just cuts his head off.
Very cool.
Very.
She
cool
should have taken his head. Realistically,
yes.
Because they could maybe fix him again.
Her and Gunner get onto a ship, fly
Gunner's
off.
Fucked up.
Yeah, Gunner's all fucked up. They get onto the ship.
He also got stabbed.
Yes, he got stabbed.
Shot.
Stabbed.
It might have been shot. No, stabbed. He had a sword.
Okay.
Yeah.
They fly off. Gunner then dies.
Yep.
We get this cool sequence where Deborah Bloodaxe, the sister there, finally shows up, which I thought was kind of a cool sequence. They show up, and
really forgot about them.
You completely forget about them, and like the Dreadnought is now down. The Dreadnought is destroyed. They've now crash landed back into Velt, right next to the village. And you're kind of sitting there like, okay, what's going to happen next? Then suddenly you hear the whirl of the machines, and they go to a shot out of everything. The Dreadnought's in the background. Here's the village. Dreadnought's in the background. They're all here, and just out of nowhere is just all of Deborah Bloodaxe and her entire fleet just flying in. And it was kind of a cool because, like you said, we completely forgot about. You almost completely forget about her, and then it's like, oh shit, here she. All right, let's go. One of the pilots was the boss man himself. We saw that. I noticed that.
You noticed that? I was
the voice. As soon as I heard the voice, I was like, "That's the boss man. That's the boss man." And then we get the
boss man is Zack Snyder.
Boss man is Zack Snyder for everybody.
Because I don't know him as boss man either.
Then we get to the point. So now Gunner's dying and all that. The best part of the entire thing right there then happens. Hagen is still alive.
He's like, we won.
Hagen's the old man. He's like, we won.
There was a point where he was shooting, and Husky's like, he's gonna die.
Yeah, I was worried. If he died, I was gonna be upset. My score, I'm not gonna lie, my score would have gone down if he died.
Oh, for real?
Yes.
Okay.
As soon as I saw him in the first one and just how like fatherly he was, just some random person, I was like, I love this so much. And then I'm going to say spoiler for bit. I mean, we've been spoiler talk this whole time, but this I think is the bombshell spoiler for everyone. Then you get to the end scene, and they're excited. They're talking with Cora, and like this is literally right after everything's done. They're now talking about what they're gonna do next. You know, they're having the funeral pyres for everyone, and like now what are we gonna do next? This sort of thing. And she's now finally able to say like, I am this person. I did this. This is what happened. And General Titus is like, I know. And just so you know, Princess Issa is still alive.
Yes, that's the big bombshell. You're right.
The big bombshell.
He was like, "You think it'd be that easy to kill her?" And she was like, "Huh?" And apparently he knew the whole time.
Yeah.
I think it was, and I was thinking it was like purely like let's see if she feels bad about it. Let's see how she feels about it because she's never talked about it.
Mm.
Let's see if Cora is like okay with what she did, or if she's like an eating at her. And if he finally was like, nope, she's repented.
Well, and
Repent.
when it's one of those things as well, where it's like to me it's interesting because now it opens up a whole new thing for Titus. Because how did Titus know?
Yep. It opens a thing for both of them. It gives Titus like a story for Titus, and then it gives her a new like cause because like Gunnar died, he no longer has her man's, and then like she's like, what do I do now? I killed him. Like they're not coming for me. What do I do now? And he's like, oh, I have to go find the princess now.
Yeah. So
Road Moon Part 3, the princess, finding the princess,
the Princess Diary.
the Princess Diaries.
So yeah, so that happens, and then Jimmy shows up, and they're like, "Jimmy, you want to go find your queen, the princess?" And Jimmy's like, "I guess so," which I love that, and I hope that this gets greenlit because Anthony Hopkins is getting up there in age, so we need him to finish his job.
Dude, he just sounds old.
He does. So, and that's how it ends. It sets up. That's one of the things I was gonna say. I thought it did a good job of setting up potentially. This is what a third movie could be. A third, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, like that. Now we kind of see it because the next
or
two,
second, third,
second, third. Yeah. The next one you can tell is gonna be about finding Issa, and then the final one will be going against Belisarius or confronting Belisarius. At least that's how I'm.
No, I feel like that would be
because then it would bring everything full circle.
That if I was a betting man, that's probably what it is.
Yeah, which I'm fine with. It's predictable, but I'm fine with
it. Say the princess was dead. They did this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
They could just live in existence and be like, "Fuck it, I'm not dealing with." I'm not going after him. Like that's suicide.
Yeah.
But if they has a princess, like he has to, she goes and finds the princess, and she's like, "Well, I got to take out Belisarius now."
Yeah, I mean, you think about that as well. Is like if she finds the princess, and then Belisarius finds out that the princess is still alive. Now that brings in the whole aspect of that too. Now he needs to find her to kill her. You know? So now it's no longer like, oh, bring her to me. No, I'm gonna go to you now. Which that could be. If we just got that visual spectacle of the Dreadnought coming into this world, and that's just one base level Dreadnought, imagine what it's going to be like if Belisarius shows up with his fleet.
Yeah, he's going to have multiple Dreadnoughts.
Yes, and probably like the main big boy there too.
The Peacekeeper.
Yeah, the Peacemaker. But so yes, that's the movie. That was Rebel Moon Part 2, the Scargiver. One of the things I will say that I did, and this is something I didn't hit on earlier, that is you can leave, because now it's a better time to talk about it. There has been some things, and not a whole lot, but a couple of them that I did see at one point, where people were complaining about Cora being the main person in a franchise like this, because like, how can she fight men? Burp, 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 burp. And one of the things I will say is that Snyder did a very good job when you see her fighting. It's not like she's just, come here, you see. I got a lot of the way that she fights is it's joint manipulation. It's very agile. It's very, and like
well, she was a professional dancer.
Oh, she is?
Yeah, well, the actress.
Oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense. Dancer.
So, like, that's just like, so, I mean, that's why a couple of the movies, she's been in a couple of action movies. So, like, she was in the first Kingsman.
Yeah. Did not
she
know
was
that.
Blade Legs. Oh. Did you ever see that one?
No, I've not seen that one.
Oh, she's like a bad guy in the first one. It's great.
Oh, okay.
And she has, like, prosthetic legs, but they're swords.
So, I love it.
Yeah. Yes, but it's like silly, but that's like it's a silly movie.
Yeah,
so kind of it's perfect for the movie. But so she's like a dancer, so that's like like a lot of that stuff she's doing.
Mm.
So,
well, that's one of the things as well. Before we do our final little bit here,
oh my god, I was looking up Rebel Moon Part 1 pictures to find something. God, that dude's abs are always just out. They're
Tarek,
so. Oh my god. Anyways.
This is like a pet peeve that I saw as well, where it's like someone gave it a negative review because there was no comedy in it.
Okay.
And I'm like, Are we really at that point now where every single fucking movie has to have comedy in it?
Was there even a single joke in this movie?
There was a lot of tongue in cheek and just like
Tongue-in-cheek ones.
silly moments, like when the kid is walking over to her with the.
Yes.
So there's one point where the little kid is walking over to Nemesis. She has her hat down. She's like this, kind of just like.
She's taking a snooze.
Yeah, she's just chilling, having a good time out there. And like one of the kids is like the other kids like almost like talked him into it, and he's walking over there with like a stick of
A wheat
grain.
stalk?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like he's going to go poke her, and she grabs it and he runs off, and she like looks up at him and then looks back, and then you just see her grin. It's just like a very like little silly little tongue in cheek, and that's like what most of those jokes were. Like it wasn't like
there actually was a couple funny points in the first one.
yeah,
Like in the bar scene. The bar scene was funny.
yes. But like yet again, those are more like the and that's the comedy from Snyder. I feel like that is Snyder's comedy. It's tongue in cheek. It's very just kind of dry.
But
It's
not a lot in this one.
no. Well, I mean, this one was a fucking war film.
Yeah. So,
And that's one of the things we said as well. Is like it's funny because it's like there's moments where they're in the foxholes fighting, and it's like this feels like a World War II sort of movie right now because we're in a foxhole fighting.
and also if you look at it like it is one movie, it like was kind of, like there was like there's not as much pressure at the beginning of the movie as there is now.
Yes.
So to make it like the Avengers, where you like the city's getting destroyed and you're making a joke about shawarma.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's like yeah, okay, bro. Like I don't care how much that's in your character. Yeah. Okay. And like you said, yeah, at the very beginning you were kind of just slowly going into stuff, but then at the end of the movie now it's like, all right, now it's the jokey time's kind of over with now. But that's the movie though. Like I said, I very much enjoyed it.
Yeah, I liked it too.
I'm gonna be watching it again this week. Just one, simply just to get the numbers up, but two, because I genuinely want to see it again. Right? Because like watching back part one, there was things that I noticed watching it again that I didn't notice the first time.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's going to be the same with this. So, but
I'm excited for the long one.
yes, I want to see, because apparently Snyder's talked about it a decent amount recently, where there's certain, like, even though like an actor may say something along the lines of like, well, we have to fight the Imperium, in in the 6-hour R-rated cut, the way that the tone of that would be said is different. And it changes scenes, and like it's basically a completely different movie. And I'm assuming when he says that, it's not like it's a completely different movie. It's just the tonally, it's going to be a different movie.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that is like we're gonna get more backstory. We're gonna get more of the little like things that give us more lore stuff. We're gonna get some more stuff because there's one scene in the trailers that happens that we never saw in the movies, that I know for a fact. And there's like a Goro sort of character with like 4 arms, and he's like, "Argh!" Like that. I can almost guarantee you that's going to be in the Titus scene from the first movie where they go to the gladiator world.
Okay, yeah, good
Because
point.
we never
Yeah.
saw we never saw that in the actual
Oh,
movie.
I forgot about that gladiator world.
Yeah. Right, so that's the thing. Is like I think in the first movie, a lot of that extra hour of the movie is going to be just in when they go to the different worlds. It's going to be spending 10, 15 minutes longer in each one of them,
Yeah.
fully exploring that. Like and
That'd be cool.
And that's one of the things. Like we said, a little bit of the final thing. I know I said that like 4 times now, but
Yeah, well, that's what we do, baby.
yeah, that's what we do. The world building I thought has been great in this. With it being a brand new
And
thing,
we're talking about like every world feels different.
it feels
Like
unique.
they all,
It
it's
feels
like its
different.
own unique civilization.
Like
It's
you
like
go
these
to
worlds.
Tarek's homeworld, and it's like there's skyscrapers. It seems very steampunkish. But then you go to the world with the spider lady, and it's just it's like old
It's like Chinese
industrial
slums.
metal rusting. And then you go
Yeah.
to the gladiator world, and it's just like there's like one mountain with a gladiator pit on top of it.
It
Like-
reminded me of. You ever see the Kowloon city in China, where it was like the most densely populated place
Yes.
on Earth? Yeah.
Yes. So it's like
Remind me of.
each world feels so unique and special, which I thought was kind of a very interesting thing. And I think that's where they're going to, in the first part anyway, that's where we're going to see that hour added to, is them in each one of those worlds, kind of expanding on them a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then the second one is just going to be more violence, and they're just going to add on probably to the farming part. Honestly, probably gonna be the farming part, and then more of the. I mean, really. I mean, where else would you add the extra hour in the second one?
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, I don't know.
You're gonna. I mean, I'm assuming it's gonna be a little bit more flashback instead of it
More
being like
sex, more sex. Maybe,
more sex.
Twink Soldier Boy and that girl have sex.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But anyways, let us know down in the comments if you have made it this far. One, thank you. We appreciate you. And two, let us know down in the comments what you guys thought of Rebel Moon Part 2. If you guys liked it, if you didn't like it, if you're a Snyder hater just because you hate him, you can just leave. Because there's no point in just watching a movie just to shit on it just because you hate the person.
Also, why waste your time?
Yeah. That's one of the things. Like I saw one part. Like one of the things is like I got bored with the movie, so I skipped forward. I skipped forward through it, and even then I was bored with the movie. And they gave it a 0.5-star rating. I'm like, why? Why?
I have a friend like that who's like, yeah, he's like, yeah, I don't like the movie. I was like, oh, when did you see it? He's like, oh no, I just read what it was about. And I was like, I hate you. I was like, I hate you. He's like, I'm not interested.
Well, it's like the C-3PO like comment. I saw that, and I'm like, you didn't watch the movie. You just outed yourself. Like you just didn't watch the movie. But yeah, so let us know what you guys think down in the comments down below. And as always, depending on where you are, morning, afternoon, even night, stay out of trouble, stay safe, and we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.